Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street, an LCX video for you guys today. Before we go into some of the topics for LCX, do not forget to check out some of the other videos on the channel. Loads of different topics, discussions, and various different projects and assets that we cover. And also, of course, don't forget to smash that subscribe button if you have not done so already. Hopefully you enjoy all the content. Working our way towards 10,000. Absolutely incredible. Thank you for support. And hopefully you're learning something. I certainly am every time I do these videos and speaking to you guys out there in the community, in comments, in the community section. Absolutely brilliant. Love the interaction. And yeah, let's crack on, guys. LCX, right. So these guys, as many of the other asset and projects that we follow, we're very, very present at the most recent event hosted by the World Economic Forum at the Davos event. Very big topics this year around AI and particularly in blockchain, and more specifically in blockchain this year in general has been lots of discussions around tokenization. Now, if you remember a while back, or if you're new to the channel, you obviously wouldn't know, but we started a series of videos relating to the tokenization and the economy of this. Move to earn, view to earn, play to earn, eat to earn, you name it. There's a to earn opportunity for the future. This is where I believe that the economy will go with the links of things like the basic universal income, the drop in workforce, the drop in labor requirements of manpower, etc., and moving into more of an AI machine-led world. But we still need a form of economy and a form of interaction to be rewarded and get money, right? But the other side of tokenization is creating digital assets in general, but also the ability to tokenize real assets into a digital format as well, and vice versa. And in between that, bonding this with things like smart contracts in terms of the legalities, the verification process, all of these things. We talked about this at length many times with various different sectors. Talk about the tokenization of carbon credits, for example, in the energy sector, healthcare as well. And I guess one of the really interesting things is real estate as well. This is a big sector. We're talking about millions upon trillions of dollars in various sectors here. And that's just a very, very small piece of the pie. And one of the things that's come out of the World Economic Forum this year in particular is the tokenized economies. Honestly, this is going to be massive buzzwords over the next few years, as is blockchain in general, of course. I do believe that CBDCs will be a massive trigger point for the big bull runs in the coming years. But tokenized economies is a massive opportunity to really understand this mechanism and what this actually stands for, but also the projects and the companies that are very heavily related to providing solutions to this, but also potential regulation frameworks. And how do we legalize the ownership qualities of a digital asset and a physical asset, and combining those two and bonding those two? And if you remember the video we did a few weeks back with the project that was utilizing this kind of criteria, that if you had a watch, for example, in the physical world, you can basically have that smart contracted. You have the full ownership of that, but you could share this watch, not necessarily physically, but the actual value of it with as many people as you wanted. But that would digitally bond itself on the blockchain as verified, I guess, like shareholders, if you like, of this particular asset. So if you think about that huge framework, that could be done with real estate or commercial properties, anything and everything that you could possibly think of that has a value, right? So this is a really interesting topic. I won't play any of this video right now, but I do recommend watching this or listening to it at least in the background. I've listened to it a couple of times. It's very, very interesting. It's certainly a topic that I knew would be something that would be spoken about a lot in this Davos agenda this year. And it was a topic that was brought up last year as well at Davos in 2022. But this year there seems to be a massive escalation in conversation, but also in the massive developments in projects and solutions that are catering towards this. So do have a look at this. It's quite funny as well to, of course, see the UN's sustainability, diversity, badge here, Agenda 30. If you don't know what that is, go and look it up. UN led, but obviously focused heavily and invested heavily in via the World Economic Forum. It's all interlaced, it's all linked, guys. You'll see this pattern in dot connecting. I don't really preach about it much anymore. I think if you're in the space, or at least know these words or these names or organizations, you can start putting two and two together to realize the kind of the world that they're leading to over the next, particularly the next 7 years, especially with AI and blockchain. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic to see some of these developments, but also some concerns, if the correct regulation is not put in place, or the right frameworks, or the right people leading all of these conversations and topics and technologies. We do need to be apprehensive, arguably, about some of this, but certainly always something that I mention is you will have a path to choose in the coming years. Whether you know about it or not is another question. Whether you decide to educate yourself about it even further is another question as well. But all we can do on this channel is just keep pushing these conversations and thoughts and as much knowledge as we can. And if there's any knowledge or thoughts that you guys have, always throw them in the comments. We always respond to them. There's been some great information coming from you guys about the World Economic Forum and all the things that are going on there, CBDCs. It's really interesting to see people's different opinions on either side of that as well. So do keep in touch with those thoughts and processes. But yes, LCX did have a massive presence here at the Davos event in 2023 last week. And of course, rubbing shoulders really with a lot of other really fantastic projects out there. hbar being one of them, of course, and they're all fairly interlaced. They're working together in their own capacities. But really interesting to see a lot of the projects that we follow and cover and certainly invest in are having humongous presence at such a giant event, guys. You won't hear about Davos in the mainstream. You won't hear about media coverage of Davos. You'll hear about like government summits and other stuff like that. But this event is so closed doors, but it's becoming more and more open, and more people are becoming aware of it. And again, just educate yourselves as much as possible about all this kind of thing. But LCX has a humongous solution and product base here to really provide a technological solution towards this tokenization world that we're moving towards. And very confidently, they're speaking here, even back in 2022, December, a couple of months ago, was that whole making sure that whether it's a physical asset or a digital asset, and the combination of those two, that there are liabilities, that there are responsibilities, that there is actual confirmed verified ownership. So as part of not just being an exchange, they have so many different avenues that they're going down that are really exciting for this space. And one of the other key reasons that I invest in LCX, not just because I think it's going to be a phenomenal exchange moving forward, it's already massively regulated, it's already embedded within a lot of the projects that we talk about and organizations, governments, etc., on the hierarchy level, but taking that beyond that, all the other things that it does is absolutely incredible. So do check them out. Check out our intro video on LCX as well, because we cover a lot of those things. And I think the last video we did was the project related, I can't remember, it was Galileo or something. I've got to remind myself, but certainly do an update on that one as well, because it's very interesting to see how they are initiating this way forward with tokenized assets. So keep an eye out for this topic in general, guys, throughout this year. It's going to be something that increases with magnitude as the year goes by for these tokenized assets in their relative forms. So just wanted to bring those sort of thoughts and topics to the top of the table here with you guys. Let's jump into the chart, because this in itself is an absolutely phenomenal topic to discuss right now. In this last month, 379% gains since the beginning of January. It's absolutely phenomenal. A lot of assets and projects right now are showing similar moves. This is, of course, related to a number of things like the Bitcoin movements, of course, people moving money into stocks and crypto again because of the inflation issues, because of not trusting banks and things like this anymore. We also got things like the Davos event, which does have a massive magnitude now. I think people are becoming more and more aware of this. So you see this massive influx of LCX moving upwards. smashing through really some of these really key points in the fib retracement levels that we drew in history. Now, this one is relating to something you can't unfortunately see in this particular chart because TradeView hasn't pulled it in, but this is one of the lower key areas of LCX that we've seen from history. And this is something that's a very good marker point when we take those lower points and some of the most higher recent points to identify some areas where we could have some sell-off, but also some buy-ins on the way down as well. So on this upward trajectory, guys, all I would say is, and this is honestly my opinion, not financial advice or anything like that, me personally, I'm not going to be buying at these areas, okay? The RSI is 14-day 86, 28-day 81. These are very super high. Yes, of course, there's still a small room of movement possible on the upward trend, but in reality, like, that growth pattern isn't going to be substantial enough unless you're chucking in obscene amounts of capital and money. Those returns aren't going to be huge, in my opinion. That's why right now we've seen these upscaled stepping stones, if you like, of the trends. Even these points here were relatively high, albeit at 76. That's still sort of teetering on the verge of really assessing what the risk might be on that. But we're hitting these top ends now. There's an argument to say that we could go 90 or beyond. It doesn't appear to be finishing just yet today as we're recording. But on the way down, we must reflect on some possibilities of really grabbing some DCA areas for LCX. One being this 10-cent area back down here. And of course, this projected area around sort of 8 to 7 cents. This matches up very nicely with the orange line that we drew in previous videos, but more importantly, matching up with some criteria that ticks off in some areas in 2022 as areas of resistance on the way up. So at some point, we've got to come back down and we've got to verify these areas as support. Now, support can't always be dictated to within a 24, 48-hour period. Sometimes it takes a few weeks and certainly takes a lot of bobbing up and down along those lines, right? So for me, that 10-cent area, not just because we're looking at this particular area of well, very much something that we penetrated and went straight through over the last 2 days. But if we look back in history, certainly a great point here is referenced 10th of June. But we're also just about messing around with these areas in 12th of August last year and around the 17th of July last year as well. So we're getting an interesting pattern here where you can see some very interesting movements exactly in line with where these big actions occurred in the past as well. This would identify to me, and certainly from experience, that as we're hitting these higher areas, of course, we need to condense that at some point. Profits will be taken over a short period of time, and then we look for the areas of interest on the way down. That's not to say, oh, we'll just buy every cent downwards. There are really critical and easy options that we could identify just simply from the short term, but as I said, with the long term as well. So these are two buy options that I'm putting in my order books right now. On Bitrue, and the reason, as I said, is very much data driven and that opportunity to grab LCX at lower price points. Now, of course, we were buying LCX down at 3 and 4 cents. I haven't taken any profits yet. I'm just accumulating. Call me crazy, whatever, but for me, I'm just holding them for the future, okay? I don't massively trade. There are some assets that I do, but some I'm just literally not wanting to mess around with, or I just simply don't have the time or management to do that, irrespective of limit orders that we could potentially put in. So for me, I'm now looking at these lower options, and that's not to say that this is the final bottom areas. I do think that eventually we still need to confirm these lower areas around 5 cents and well, basically sub 10 cents really in general needs to be fully confirmed, in my opinion, before we can really uprise. We've had a great move, don't get me wrong, in this last month, but there's loads of other things to think about. Macro level, you know, the world recession potentially. We've got interest rates going up over the next few months worldwide. Are we going to get squeezed even further with inflation and things like this? So we just got to be wary and cautious of this. But take these opportunities as they come. And if you're taking profit from these lower areas when we're covering this video and where we might get to, fantastic. Absolutely really pleased for you guys out there that have done so. If you're accumulating like I am and just waiting for these drops, or you've sold off it here and you're looking for areas to buy back in, don't always chuck your money in instantly at these positions. Do the DCA strategy is always a good one. Dollar cost averaging, and this means that don't chuck your money in straight away. Do percentage accumulation on the way down, just as you would selling on the way up. Do it in various different incremental levels, because otherwise you run a massive risk of chucking all your money in here and going down even further, and then you're just thinking, oh, I wish I waited. And it's exactly the same principle and psychology on the way up as well. So yeah, just keep an eye out for this. I'm just going to drag this fib retracement level across a bit more as well, just so we've got a bit of an identifiable point to confirm here. So you can see quite clearly the areas where we've been trying to see if we've got enough support here to go up to the next levels, along with the momentum of the market in general, of course, has massively helped, particularly assets like LCX. But you can see clearly here where the magnets are, if you like, of opportunities on the way up and down. So if you look closely, and if we just remove this price range quickly, you can kind of see it's not fully off, it's not fully accurate, but it gives you an idea that if you look at this kind of grey line on this longer term fib retracement that we've done, you can see the area that it's tried to achieve. And we're just tailing off as we've been speaking within the space of like 0.2% really, but that's the area that we've been trying to play around with. And clearly at the moment in time, this is showing resistance. So the natural occurrence would be that this will probably detract around this 11 cent area. And arguably, if that does happen, that's a great opportunity to grab a 4 or 5 cent discount, if you like, as part of an initial buy-in or initial buy back in from these top points. So keep an eye out for that. But performance-wise, you can't argue with this. 82% up on the week, 327% up on the month. It's all green, and there's a few assets that are showing green across the board. If you remember, like we rewind 3 months ago, how many projects were in significant red, and all of a sudden, a lot of these assets are not just breaking even and going into green; they're flying upwards. It's absolutely incredible to see, and that's just what this space can really provide you sometimes. No one knows what's around the corner. But that's why DCA strategies are important. That's why it's important to have a strategy on the way up and on the way down, because you can take advantage in various different ways throughout this journey. So never rest on your laurels. Guys, we're going to wrap that up there. I think LCX is a phenomenal project. As I said, it's not just about the exchange for me. It's all the other intricate details and solutions that it's got ahead of it. And the fact that it was having a heavy presence at Davos and World Economic Forum only gives you a massive indication of how implanted these guys are already in a massive organizational sphere at government, and if not higher levels. We're talking about higher government than we see in our own countries, right, respectively. So very interesting indeed. We'll cover LCX shortly in a few days' time or a week's time. But yeah, let's keep an eye on this chart, because I do anticipate there's some lower opportunities to grab some on the way down. Let us know what you think about that in the comments below. We're going to jump into a quant video next tonight as well, because they've seen some significant gains as well. Some very interesting interactions around the World Economic Forum, and tailing off really from this video as well about tokenization. It's going to be a really interesting topic this year for sure. So thanks for watching this one, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.